Okay, this press conference is being held in regards to the incident that occurred yesterday. That incident occurred at 5:26 p.m. on Flick Avenue in the Carrolltown Borough section of Cambria County, where two adults were found passed away by police after they were called to check on the welfare of that family. The scene was considered suspicious from the early onset. The scene was processed and photographed by the coroner's office, the district attorney's office, and the Pennsylvania State Police. The Pennsylvania State Police also called in their forensic services unit to assist with the investigation. The two deceased individuals I'm positively identifying as Olivia Courtney, 32 years of age, and Ashley Cook, 38 years of age. Both suffered massive blood loss due to multiple stab wounds. They were found on the floor in the living room of the residence. Autopsies will be conducted tomorrow at Forensic DX in Wimber to document their injuries. Does anybody have any questions for me before I turn it over to the district attorney?
Can you tell if they were both killed at approximately the same time? Or
Yes, both appear to be killed about the same time, yes.
Can you spell those names for us? Olivia?
Last name Courtney, Courtney, 32 years of age, and Ashley Cook, Cook, 38 years of age.
Did either of them have any defensive kind of wounds? You said it's a stabbing.
There were signs of a struggle, yes.
These two individuals, did one or both of them live at the residence?
Both lived at the residence, yes.
Are they from the Carrolltown area?
Yeah, both are from the Carrolltown area. They lived there approximately 2.5 years. They were from the Texas area. We're good? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the Cambria County District Attorney, Greg Niebuhr.
Following up on what Coroner Lees had to say, charges were filed early this morning by Pennsylvania State Police against Judah Courtney, Judah, Courtney. He is 14 years of age. He lived at the 149 Flick Avenue residence along with the decedents. Initially, this call came in from a neighbor who had an interaction and was told something was wrong, and they called 911 on behalf of the juvenile. Carrolltown Borough responded. This house is just in Carrolltown Borough. Responded, confirmed two decedents. Immediately they contacted for help. PSP responded. Northern Cambria Borough responded, as well as Hastings Borough. They responded, scene was secured. PSP Forensic Services, PSP Major Case out of Greensburg, the District Attorney's Office. We all responded and were on scene for quite some time. Additional work is being done at the scene this morning. In any type of homicide investigation, the investigation doesn't stop because charges were filed. A lot of times, the investigation will be ongoing for a period of time. Obviously, from a public safety standpoint, last night when I spoke with the media about 11:30, we indicated we did not believe the public was in any type of danger. At that point, Mr. Courtney was at the barracks and was secured and was being looked after. That's why we were able to indicate early on. Obviously, we weren't able to prepare and file the charges until very early this morning. He was arraigned this morning in front of Magistrate Beyer. He was denied bond due to the 2 counts of homicide, general criminal homicide, filed against him. And because he is a juvenile, there's all very specific types of precautions under federal law that must be taken when he is lodged in the Cambria County Prison. Those precautions are being taken and all proper protocols and laws are being followed. Also like to thank EMS, who was on scene for quite some time, and Carrolltown Fire. They provided lighting assistance pretty much all night. One of the things that a lot of times either doesn't get mentioned, unfortunately, or goes unnoticed is fire actually provides a lot of support for law enforcement in terms of road closures and in terms of portable lighting. Obviously, the call came in, heavy law enforcement presence starting around 6 p.m., 6:15 last night. And search warrants were obtained, and really processing the scene in depth didn't begin until after it was dark and through the evening, or through the night, excuse me. Questions?
I assume you're, with releasing the name, you're charging him as an adult?
Yes, these charges were direct filed in adult court pursuant to Pennsylvania law. Essentially treated as an adult for all intents and purposes through the criminal justice system, at least for the time being.
You mentioned he's a juvenile, but I don't believe you said the exact age.
I apologize. His date of birth is January 21st, 2011. He is 14 years of age. 1-4.
Do you have a motive?
We don't. Motive is something that the Commonwealth isn't required to prove at trial. Obviously, we'd like to put that piece of the puzzle together. It helps. I think it helps juries, and certainly it helps law enforcement understand what happened, right? Part of this is to try to understand what happened and the why. That is something that will be looked at. There's a lot of different avenues we have to sort of look at, try to get a feel for, what home life was like, try to get a feel for the history for all these folks. Again, they moved from the Texas area about 2.5, 3 years ago, somewhere around there. We don't know why. The next of kin for the juvenile is in Texas. So not really much of a family structure up here. So those are all details that we're trying to flesh out a little bit.
Do you know the relationship to the deceased and to the...
Yes, the relationship relative to Olivia Courtney is Judah's mother, biological mother. We're not positive relative to the relations with Ashley Cook. At this point, we do believe that Ashley Cook was a family friend of sorts.
Did the suspect talk with police?
So ethically, I'm not allowed to disclose whether or not statements were made. I'd refer any type of detail to the criminal complaint. Anything contained in that would be public information. But ethically, I actually can't go into details about whether or not a statement was provided.
Is it known if the suspect was attending school or what that school may have been and if there was any issues in the past?
That school district would be Cambria Heights School District. Obviously, given the timing of police involvement, those are part of the things, or one of the things that we're going to start trying to piece together over the coming days. The coroner's office, law enforcement, and the DA's office, we're up all night on these types of things. I don't think the superintendent would be thrilled if we called him at 2 o'clock in the morning on that. So those are things that we'll reach out to the school, and I'm sure we'll have cooperation.
There was chatter out there that the suspect had posted something on social media from inside the home? Is that, can you
So-
confirm that? Or?
Yeah, we heard that chatter. That's another avenue. That's another sort of piece of the puzzle that we're looking at, today, tomorrow, the coming weeks. Certainly, any type of electronic evidence, social media, those types of things, that takes some time. Certain companies are a little more cooperative with law enforcement than others, to be perfectly honest. So those types of things, that's stuff that's issues that we're going to continue to look into for as long as we need to.
Did the neighbors say, or police, the first arriving police say what the suspect's demeanor was when they encountered him?
I'm not going to go into any details about that. I think that's part of what ultimately we may need to show the jury. So I think from preserving the case and from a perspective of, ensuring that we're able to put forth the best case possible, I'm just going to defer comment to that for public proceedings down the road.
Was he still on scene when investigators arrived?
Yeah, he was in the area when everyone arrived, yes.
In the area as in at the home or down the street or hiding somewhere or anything like that?
If I understand correctly, he was with a neighbor. So, no, there was no attempt to flight, no attempt to hide, anything like that.
Was he taken into custody without incident?
He was initially checked out by medical personnel without incident once they ensured that he was okay to be transported to the state police barracks. He was done so. He was provided with food and water and kept as comfortable as possible while the investigation ensued.
I don't know, where were the victims located? Were they in the same room, throughout the house?
Yeah, they were in the same room, what I would describe as the living room. They were both located in the living room.
Any injuries to the suspect?
I'm not going to go into detail about that. One of the warrants that was executed was a body warrant for photographs, those types of things, which is pretty standard in a case like this. So I'm not going to go into any details of the findings of those at this point.
Are you able to say if you had other police calls to that residence in the past?
So in speaking with local police, it wasn't a problem house. It wasn't a house they had been to a lot. That's also something that, to give the local police an opportunity to go in, check their record systems and stuff. We don't have all that information yet, but in speaking with Chief McAvoy last night on scene, as well as the patrolman on scene, it was not known to be a problem house.
Being in a small town like Carrolltown, it's got to be shocking for the residents.
Sure. Carroll, as you said, Carrolltown's a pretty small town, pretty tight-knit community, really nice town, actually. And it's tough in these situations because word travels fast. Whenever there's a large police presence, all of a sudden, everyone around town is talking about it. So there is a desire from law enforcement and first responders in general to make sure that the community understands that it's safe, there's no ongoing risk. We have to balance that with the reality of what we're doing immediately. We only get a chance to do it once. We have to do it right. And from a prosecutor's perspective, we really literally get one shot at it. So we always have to temper our desire to make sure the community understands they're safe with our need to get in there and immediately start doing certain things before we could even make a comment, even publicly to the media. To my left is Trooper Greenfield, Pennsylvania State Police. He's one of their communications guys. I have to thank him. He sort of took some of the burden of the communications with media and stuff last night off of the DA's office, so I appreciate that. We do expect an update to come from from the trooper here sometime this afternoon, later this evening, just for any media that's not here.
Weapon, has there been a weapon recovered?
Yeah, 3 knives were recovered at the scene, believed to have been used.
There was a previous question about the suspect's social media. Is it known if that social media is still up, or was it taken down by investigators?
So typically what would happen is preservation orders and requests would go out to the social media companies. Obviously, law enforcement doesn't have the ability to remove any type of posts or anything like that. So, some of that depends on privacy settings. Obviously, some of it depends if it was, something posted on Facebook on a public wall is different than something sent via Snapchat, right? As we're working through what channels may or may not have been used, that's part of the puzzle.
Do you believe there's a gap in time from when the victims were killed to when the suspect went out and was calling for help? Do you believe there was maybe a gap in time?
Yes, a gap, but no, I wouldn't. I guess it's all relative. I wouldn't call it. At this point, we don't believe it was a large gap in time. We believe it was a relatively small gap.
Coroner Lees mentioned there was defensive wounds, and you mentioned there's 3 knives found. That's, to have 3 weapons, is that kind of an oddity?
Oh, I will say that's a hard question. If it wasn't picked up, the question is it an oddity for multiple weapons?
Does that show some sort of intent?
Well, I would say no two crime scenes are alike. I think that maybe that goes without being said, but no 2 crime scenes are alike. It's part of, obviously, as a prosecutor, what you look at. What does that show relative to motive, to intent, those types of things. Yeah, I mean, that's an intricate piece of the puzzle. That's an important piece of it. I'm not going to speculate, at the end of the day, whether or not that shows one thing or another. But multiple weapons were used and were located
Were
at
they
the
all
scene.
located near the victims?
They were located around the greater part of the scene. They weren't all in one specific location.
Are all the weapons suspected to be used by the suspect, or were they possibly in the hands of the decedents?
I'm going to defer on that for a little while until we are able to poke around on a couple more things. Believed at least 2 of them were used by Mr. Courtney.
Was there any signs of him trying to, I don't know what the word, cover up or?
Well, I would refer so I apologize for not doing this. The charges are 2 counts of general criminal homicide, 4 counts of aggravated assault, 2 for each victim, 3 counts of possession of instrument of crime, which would be the 3 knives, and then 1 count of tampering or fabricating physical evidence.
Can you say why that charge was then?
Let me just
That
take
led to
one
that charge?
look and verify what's in the complaint. Give me 1 second, I apologize. So, based on where some of the evidence was located is what caused, which is what brought about the tampering charge.
Do we know how long the incident lasted?
We don't. It would be speculation to put a time frame on it. I don't.
Was it over hours?
No, it wouldn't be over hours. No.
suspects stay at Cambria County Prison with just certain amenities?
Sure. And I guess I sort of indirectly alluded to that, so I appreciate the question. So anytime you're housing a juvenile in an adult lockup facility, they have to be kept sight and sound separated from adult inmates. Obviously, educational needs are covered, same as medical needs. Any type of healthcare concerns are covered. There are monthly hearings to determine, they're called interest of justice hearings, to determine whether or not it is appropriate to continue to house them in an adult lockup facility. I'm not sure exactly how many juveniles are currently in the prison. Cambria County, we have at least one or two Cambria County defendants, and then we also house juveniles for other counties that don't quite have the setup that Cambria County Prison has that allows us to effectively follow really what are, and appropriately, a lot of rules and regulations that are in effect pursuant to federal law.
Coroner, you mentioned they came to Carrolltown from Texas approximately 2 years ago. Do you know what brought them to Carrolltown?
Yeah, that's something that we're obviously interested in understanding what brought them into Carrolltown. Texas is not right next door, so that's again something that we're trying to figure out. It's not really germane to the case, right? It doesn't really matter necessarily in this instance, I don't believe, why they were located in Carrolltown, but it helps to provide context and set some background for, if for no other reason, for law enforcement to start to understand what led up to really a tragic day, tragic afternoon.
No family, friends in the area that you're aware of?
Not that we're aware of. Again, Mr. Courtney's next of kin is a grandfather in the state of Texas. Best that we know now.
Biologically his mother?
Biologically his maternal grandfather, I believe,
Yes.
right? And something else that probably almost never gets talked about, the coroner's office is amazing at locating next of kin. Honestly, I don't know how they do it, but even on scene, one of the first things they're looking to do, because they have the unfortunate task a lot of times of providing death notices, which is a heartbreaking thing. Anyone that's ever had to do that knows how heartbreaking that is in any circumstance. In this case, it gets complicated because obviously the coroner's office relatively quickly was able to determine next of kin was most likely in Texas. And then it's reaching out to a local police department in Texas to go verify relationship, and then also they're the ones that provide the initial notice that there's a possible death in the family. And then the coroner's office and obviously PSP follows up to communicate with the surviving family members. So right from the word go and something like this, we're working on trying to figure out where the next of kin is, and then what maybe brought someone here.
The suspect, you touched on it briefly, but were you able to speak with the school district? Did he have any disciplinary problems or actions against him?
No, we haven't spoken with the school district yet. That is something that's on the checklist to do, so to speak. As you can imagine, in any homicide case, the initial checklist the next day is lengthy, and you have to prioritize and work through the checklist. So we would anticipate communications with the school district to get a feel for any type of history, that sort of thing.
Being a juvenile, would you follow the same court procedures as an adult preliminary hearing?
Correct. Yeah. So while he is a juvenile, he is charged as an adult. That process through the court system is exactly the same for this case as any other adult case. So preliminary hearing, I believe, is tentatively scheduled for October 16th before Magistrate Byer. I'd have to double check that date, but he was arraigned this morning, denied bond pursuant to Pennsylvania law, and the prelim was scheduled for October 16th. Obviously, a case like this, it's odds are it's not going to go on the 16th. It'll be continued and at a later date. With the autopsies, plural, not occurring until tomorrow. Obviously, there's going to be information from that's going to be integral to the case, and those final reports won't be ready by the 16th.
Greg, anything you can just say generally about the age of the suspect here? Obviously, this isn't common to have a 14-year-old suspect, and obviously there aren't very many charges that youth can face as an adult
Sure.
at that age. This, of course, being an exception.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have a young teenager. Honestly, I'm not really at a loss for words very often, but at the end of the day, we have a young teenager.
Any evidence or signs of premeditation?
Uh,
You can speak about.
I'm not going to go into details about that. I think some of the details from the scene and other things that'll come out will shine some light on that.
Do you believe both victims were in the residence at the time that the assaults went down, or did one come in later?
I think both of. I think law enforcement believes at this point that both individuals were harmed in close physical and temporal proximity.
It may be a little early for this question, but do you expect any argument from a defense counsel to try and move this out of adult court?
I'm not going to speculate on possible defense tactics.
You mentioned 3 knives. Were any of them damaged that would have caused him to have to go back and get another knife? Were they found broken? Or?
At this point, I'm not going to go into more details about the knives and the conditions of them. I think that's something that, again, to preserve the case appropriately, I think I need to not comment on that right now.
It seems like nationally we are seeing an uptick of younger teens and even really young adults being the perpetrator of violent crimes. Understanding that this case is still in the very early preliminary investigation, what are you noticing as a prosecutor here in Cambria that could be a correlation for the uptick here?
I can tell you, I mean, this is the first case that we've had of someone this young, certainly since I've been a prosecutor. I don't know that we can draw a lot of conclusions from one case. Yeah.
This is obviously appears to be a domestic situation.
Yes.
Some mother often those are called, crimes of passion or what have you. Just anything to comment on that?
Yeah, so, I mean, you make a good point. This is designated as a crime of domestic violence. Yeah, and from that, I don't know that you can draw any overt conclusions just based on that fact. But this is a domestic violence related homicide.
Both victims were actually living at the residence, correct?
That is correct. We believe both female victims were living at the residence.
Was there a romantic relationship that you know of?
We don't have anything to back that up at this point. Those are things that hopefully we can flesh out to sort of understand, what the living arrangements were in the house, that sort of thing. Not that they didn't necessarily matter to the case. I think that is something that's really, at the end of the day, probably irrelevant. It's certainly something that, again, in a homicide investigation, a lot of what ultimately gets uncovered is ultimately not relevant in the prosecution, but it helps. A trial is painting a picture for a jury, right? And sometimes those, human beings want to understand how everything interplays. It's just sort of how we're all wired. So those are the types of things that we try to figure out. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But at the end of the day, I don't know it's germane to the case.
Could it show motive being a 14-year-old male?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose.
Society.
Yeah, I suppose any underlying fact of environment, history between the parties could go to show that. Sure. I think that's a fair statement.
I believe you said the reason there was a call to the police in the first place was an interaction between the defendant and a neighbor. Is there any evidence at this point that shows that anyone heard the struggle that's been referenced or heard an argument or anything like that?
At this point, no one has come forward to indicate that they heard struggle, yelling, screaming, those types of things. No neighbors have come forward to say anything. Obviously, I presume it goes without being said, but I'm going to say it anyway. If anyone has any information, please contact Pennsylvania State Police, Evansburg, and provide that information.
Did he go to a neighbor as a cry for help, or?
At this point, I'll just say he went to a neighbor. That neighbor wasn't in any danger or anything like that, as far as we know. But he went to a neighbor.
Any connection with the neighbor? Not necessarily with the crime, but like, was it a family member? Was it a stranger?
No. To the best of our knowledge, again, the closest geographic relative, at least that we know of right now, is in Texas. So I think just a neighbor, just anyone that's familiar with Carrolltown Borough, particularly in this area, the houses aren't super far apart. The lots aren't particularly large. It's really a pretty nice neighborhood. So it's and actually, yesterday the weather was pretty nice. So even just when law enforcement set up the perimeter, there were neighbors walking on the outside of the perimeter, walking their dogs and stuff like that. So I think on a otherwise very nice fall day, just people are up milling out and about.
Do you know what grade he would have been in at the school?
14
ago.
Yeah, 14 years of age, born in January. Again, not without knowing, the grade history coming in from Texas. Yeah, I mean that would typically put someone at 8th or 9th grade. I'd say probably 9th grade. I'm trying to do the. It was a long night, so math in my head isn't necessarily super fast at the moment.
Just because I don't want to assume, he was, by what you've gathered so far, he was also living in the house with.
Yes, yeah, he was. We believe he was living in the house with his mother and Miss Cook. Any other questions? Do you have anything to add?
I do not.
You have anything to
No,
add?
sir, thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you.